Elevation Nation, we have a treat for you today. I always love when I come into a podcast with a new guest, and I actually don't know what direction we're going to go because we've been chopping it up already for a few minutes, meeting Dane Johnson. We could talk about entrepreneurship, we could talk about real estate, but I think what we're going to focus on today is holistic health. And Dane, your incredible story and how you're on a mission to change the lives of so many people. So we'll start there. We might go a little business, but Dane, welcome to Elevation Nation, man. I'm so excited to share your incredible story with the world and help some change some lives here.
Sam Parker, man, thanks so much for having me. I'm blessed to be here. And everyone listening, thank you for the time. I just want to devote this time to anyone out there who struggled with their health, having that food fear, having chronic sickness. This time is dedicated to you. I promise you can heal. I am going to change lives today. Let's get into the real nitty gritty. Stay tuned. I want to come and bring the heat. Thanks for having me, guys.
Man, let's go. We're ready to elevate.
Let's go.
Dane, you're bringing the fire. I love it. It's not obviously your first rodeo on a podcast. I know you got a podcast yourself, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And you got the studio set up. You look good. We're pumped to have you. But Dane, obviously, this is Elevation Nation. We got to start off with an elevator pitch. You got to tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, so my story and my passion is pain to purpose. I got diagnosed with an incurable disease, started having issues with it when I was 19 years old, called Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. I was actually diagnosed with both versions of inflammatory bowel disease as a kid. And this was crazy for me because I was a guy who liked to work out, go for runs. I was running a company when I was 18 years old. I paid my way through college. I got into debt, had to get out of debt. You know, I kept my expenses extremely low because I wanted to do big things in my life. You know, I was like, how am I going to become a 7-figure man? How am I going to take care of 4 kids? How am I going to buy that house, have that dream life? And all of a sudden, I'm having 20 bloody bowel movements a day. And I go from 190 pounds, 6'2", to 120 pounds. I can't have a sip of water without knowing where a bathroom is. And me, no one in my family had this disease. The doctors couldn't explain what happened to me. It happened out of nowhere, guys. Like I was eating Chipotle, having a little papillones. I was just doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden, boom, I can't have anything without blood, mucus, urgency, pain, cramping, weight loss, chronic fatigue, brain fog. I'm waking up 2 to 3 times a night to use the toilet. I don't sleep through the night for months, not weeks, months straight. And I'm breaking out in reactions, and I'm going to the doctor like, dude, give me whatever you got. Like, I'm not trying to be against the grain. I'm not Captain Jack Sparrow out here. Give me what you got. I want my life back. Prednisone, 4 years like Skittles, not working. Entyvio, a lifelong biologic immunosuppressant drug with alternative, side effects, could increase chances of lymphoma and other types of cancer, suppresses your immune system, hurts your ability to heal yourself. You're obviously more reactive and more susceptible to things like COVID. That didn't work. I had another version of that called Remicade. It didn't work for me. I was on immunomodulators. All these different medications weren't working. And then I was going over to naturopath medicine, and they were saying, you got to live in a bubble, eat these 3 foods the rest of your life, and maybe it'll get better. And that wasn't working. And so by the time I was 26, I started getting symptoms in blood in the stool at 19. By the time I was 26, I weighed 122 pounds. I was stuck in a hospital for 5 weeks straight. I couldn't walk anymore. I had to use a wheelchair to get around. I had severe 10 out of 10 pain. It felt like I was pooping glass. Like you get the urge to go, but imagine you have to poop out shredded glass. And then when I look down, it's just a crime scene. It looks like someone literally took a knife, cut my colon, and then I just started bleeding out of my colon. So it's just mucus, water, and a little bit of sediment. And this is every day. So I'm extremely anemic. So massive pain. They're giving me painkillers, and then I'm getting on sleeping pills, Ambien, And then because I couldn't eat, it was so inflamed, they put me on a feeding tube. So they made an incision in my arm, and then I was fed through my stomach from this tube. I was on for about 2-3 weeks. And so all the years before that, I had been trying natural medicine. I went to the biggest hospitals, took all the major drugs, all before that day, that time in 2014 where I nearly died of this disease. My dad flew in, my mom flew in, my sisters flew in. I had already spent $40,000, $50,000 trying to heal. And that was all before that moment. And so that's really, my story is pain to purpose. I've done cool things in my life, like I was a little farm kid from Virginia who took a one-way flight to Los Angeles, got signed as an actor and a model, and I'm shooting Nautica and Tommy Hilfiger, and I'm shooting commercials, and I'm doing all this cool stuff. And at the exact same time, I start dying of an incurable disease no one in my family had ever heard of or had. And what's killing me is I did nothing to deserve it. How many people listen right now where something's going on in your life and you're like, where did this come from? Like, I wasn't smoking a pack a day. Remember back in the 90s, guys? It's like, you get sick if you drink like a sailor, if you eat McDonald's every single day for the rest of your life, if you smoke a pack a day. I wasn't doing any of that. I was an athlete. I was in the gym. I was eating pretty good, but yet I'm the one who has to deal with this. And not a friend I knew in college, from high school, anyone around me had to deal with this. Only I had to deal with this. So I just felt smited by God. Like it was like better luck next life. That's all I kept hearing from the doctors, even naturopaths, because I'd take all these pills they'd give me, fish oil, a probiotic, I'd be on this type SCD diet or this type of diet. And I just felt like I was getting weaker and weaker and smaller and more frail. And I just felt like nothing would work for me, and I had been smited, and that was it. And I failed for years, about 4 years before I ever got any kind of results.
So you said that you first had these issues when, how old? You were 19.
19's the first time I started getting symptoms where I'd get urgency, diarrhea, blood in the stool.
And at first you're probably like, oh, I might have eaten some bad food. I might have, maybe eaten something that's like a little bit spicier. My body's whatever.
Yeah, did I eat beets last night? Because beets turn your stool red. Or did I, did I eat something sharp? I just didn't know what to think about it, and I wasn't going to look into it because that would just make me more stressed. I was a kid. I was in college. I lived 500 miles away from my parents. So the first 5 or 6 times I didn't tell anybody. And I was ashamed because as a young man, I know a lot of young men might be listening. How shameful is it for us to imagine talking about our poop and talking about our colon to anyone else? It's like, hey, something's wrong with my butt. Even the term ulcerative colitis I felt sounded ridiculous. I didn't feel comfortable telling my friends. This was 15, 20 years ago.
Go ahead, Sam. I was going to say, I also imagine, Dane, to your point, you did everything, I'm doing air quotes here for people not watching, right. You were an athlete. You ate pretty healthy. You went. You got an education. You weren't being crazy. And all of a sudden now this symptom comes out of nowhere, all at the same time when, in my opinion, you are in some of the most difficult years of your life, regardless if you're healthy or not healthy. And it's why Parker and I started the podcast. You're, young 20s when you're trying to figure out how to be an adult, how to be a man. And now you're going through these symptoms that no one in your family knows about. And honestly, probably none of your friends knew about. You're doing research maybe online. Now it sounds like your doctors didn't even really know about it or what to tell you. I just am curious a little bit on your mindset. When that first started happening to you and you weren't getting answers anywhere, Dane, what does that feel like?
Well, what I did is I just shelled it up. I think a lot of men do this. When we go through something hard, we don't feel, it's just too much shame. I don't want to put that burden on anyone else, and I don't want my life to have to change. I didn't know if I was going to be able to stay in school or I was going to lose my job or this new career I was building out in California or New York. And there was a lot of fear, doubt, and worry and shame. And then in my mind, I just thought the doctors will take care of it because all of us were conditioned to delegate really serious stuff. Something big happens to you, the principal's going to fix it, the doctor's going to fix it, or mommy and daddy's going to fix it. And that was just my subconscious. It's just like eventually I started saying things, and then I knew, and this is what a lot of us do to our parents, I knew my mom was going to go crazy trying to figure out what to do about it. So I think selfishly, it was like, I'm going to keep trying to go do my thing. My mom's going to spend 6 hours a night on the internet reading every little thing she can, trying to find the right doctor. Then she's going to fly me somewhere and take care of it. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. And I think it's the biggest difference in why some of us, I like to say this, I know 40-year-old boys and 18-year-old men, is that I refused to take accountability for what was going on for me, and I just kept delegating it. It's someone else's problem. I'm in shame. I got things to do. This is my life. I didn't deserve this. Someone else deal with it. So it was on my mom. It was on my dad. It was on my doctor. And if they didn't work, it was their fault, and I would get angry at them, and then I'd have to find somebody else who could step in. And that was the single biggest reason why I failed for years.
So you say you're failing for years. You're not taking accountability. You're not thinking deeper within yourself. You're putting it all on everyone else, even though you weren't hypothetically getting better and nothing was working. So where did it flip? Where did it change?
Well, I think, a lot of people who've been sick maybe have moments where like this month is better than last. where, if you know stocks, it's like lower lows and higher and lower highs, right? So your health is kind of like it's bobbing, but it's almost like the frog in the hot water. Also, for another metaphor, over time, you don't realize how bad you're getting, because all of a sudden I could tell because of the scale, because I'd walk around at like 188, 190 in college. And then it was like, I'm walking around at 172. I'm walking around at 164. I'm walking around at 152. I'm walking around at 143. Then it was like, I can't wear.
And you were attributing it at that time to like, wow, this is really serious because I am losing weight? Or is it like, oh, I'm taking this medication. It could be the medication. It could be this. It could be that.
I knew, the medication would send me in like cold sweats or nightmares, or I'd start throwing up. I'd have severe reactions sometimes to the medication. So that was obvious. Or I'd keep getting worse on another medication. So it was neutral, not working. And the doctors, and remember, this is a long time ago. We didn't have podcasts like this that everyone out there, there were some books. The internet was a completely different place. Like Instagram was just kind of becoming a thing, social media. So I didn't have any of these resources that we all have right now. So it was just kind of getting lower. And I remember I was living in deep shame. I was trying to stuff it away. And then the doctors were telling me food didn't matter. They were telling me that there's nothing I could do about it. Talk about re-enrolling someone to not be accountable for their health. When medical doctors tell you there's nothing you can do about it and what you eat doesn't matter, and your mom's in the room and they're saying he can eat pizza, it doesn't matter. He can have alcohol, it doesn't matter. And that's actually when it changed, Parker, because eventually I got tired of being on my knees. How many out there can relate with that? I got tired of living in pain. How many people can relate with just getting beat up in a corner? And a lot of times our subconscious says, you deal with it, you help me, you save me, you save me. God, mom, or doctor, or government, save me, save me. And eventually, after none of those things could save me, and my life was really on the line, not just my ability to breathe, but my 20s, my vision, if I felt I could ever get married and have kids or have a job or reclaim my body and my physical fitness, I was losing my dreams. That's when it changed, Parker. When you start losing your dreams and you've already used all of your resources, you've asked, you've said, you've explained, you've waited.
You feel hopeless, I'm sure.
You feel depressed. Depression is an imprisonment. It's the feeling of imprisonment. If life is hard, you still feel like you can get out of the prison. If you feel depressed, you feel like there's a prison around you that you were stuck in and there's no way out. So you got to go from depression to hard to balanced to thriving energetically. And you have to realize that each one of those keys is something you create. And you create them with perspective. You create them with action. You create it with belief and conviction. You have to create it. Like truth is a perspective. This is when my life changed. The first thing I did is I healed my mind. People say, what'd you eat? What supplements you take? Was it the probiotic? Was it the enemas? Was it the parasite cleanse? For all my advanced people out there, drainage activators, was it all these different things? That's all. I can do triple black belt kung fu with you all day. But everyone out there, what the biggest takeaway you want right now is you cannot change your life till you change your mindset, till you can control the energy of positivity and negativity inside of you. Okay? Energy is emotion. Energy in motion is that emotion. So I'm feeling sick, depressed, angry, resentful, beat down. We're here to elevate, right? That's a beautiful, positive word. You have to realize what is elevating and what is basically depreciating of how you feel. So when I sat binging on Netflix, still in my pajamas, unshaven, smelling like a rotten onion, blaming everybody, and not willing to call or talk to my parents or the doctor or a friend anymore because I didn't want to bring them into my misery, I fell into deeper depression. So the first thing when I decided to heal, when I really decided I'm going to be the CEO of my health, I'm going to elevate my life. And just footnote, this is exactly what I did to build my business, multi-million-dollar business. This is exactly how I did to get out of debt. This is exactly how I built my body. This is exactly how I built my marriage. I first decided that I'm extremely accountable for everything going on in my life, every feeling, every action, everything that even happens to me. So I'm accountable for it. And then the biggest thing I have to be accountable for is how I feel. So I realized that even though I would have 20 bowel movements a day and I couldn't walk, and I mean, I was 122 pounds. I had such muscle atrophy. I could not walk. Do you know how many times I lost control of my bowel movements? You want to talk about shame? We can underline it twice. I get it for everyone out there who's been through some stuff. but I reinvented what it was in my body. It's like I became a man is the best way I could say it, Parker and Sam. It's like I just decided no longer to be a victim, and I made big changes in my life. Number one change you can do if you want to change your life in any way, journal every day. I didn't know what my symptoms were 2 weeks ago. How can you tell me if food doesn't work or works and when you don't know what your symptoms were and you don't know what you ate? You got to be Dr. You, and you got to see patient you and put his ass in line twice a day. Anything you want, you got to be accountable, and you've got to have metrics to be able to show. Okay? You have to have metrics. So I was Dr. Dane twice a day, and I saw patient Dane, and I'd tell him notes, write in the journal. Stop eating grapefruit. That acidic fruit is giving you urgency and this, that, and the other. Stop with the donuts. I know you're addicted to them. Get off them. And I'd give myself goals 3 days later. I'd give myself goals 7 days later. Because the overwhelming nature to everyone's goals right now is it's a mountain. Like, that's the rest of your life. Like, I'm worth $10 and I want to be a millionaire. It's like, that's too big of a mountain. Like, you got to be able to see 2 steps in front of you. So journaling helped me with that. And I decided that I was going to do everything that could help me and couldn't hurt me. Prayer couldn't help me, but it could hurt me. It couldn't hurt me, but it could help me. Grounding, sunlight, Bob Marley. Here's a big one. I only cooked what I ate for 75 days. Okay? And then I eventually did it for 185
No
days.
way.
By the way.
No way.
I only ate what I cooked. I was housebound, dude. Where was I
That's true.
going? Where was I going? So it's
75 days.
I did 185 later on. So the first time I did 75, then I did 185. But you're going to realize, Parker, your great-great-grandfather only ate what he and his wife cooked every day for 80 years. See what's going on in our society right now? You want to elevate? I'm going to tell you. Here's a big elevator. Your great-grandfather lived a better life than you did in a lot of ways. You just have the technology. You have the phones. Okay? You can get from Paris to New York in 10 hours. But he ate like a king. He ate real food. There's no such thing as organic. He had real milk. He had real steaks. There's
no difference because it was all they knew.
And it was all local. It was all organic. And he didn't have to spend half his paycheck to get it. And he didn't have to become a bioengineer to read an ingredient label. There are certain ways that our ancestors lived way better than us. And that's when I realized, I was like, my great-grandfather wasn't addicted to freaking Kit Kat bars. Do I have a better life because I have Kit Kat bars and my great-grandfather didn't? That's a limiting belief. Am I more happy because I have all of this packaged food that he never had? So I started attacking the limiting beliefs of what happiness, what thriving was, what to have the best life is. Like, I see all these people, even if they are wealthy, they're like, oh, I made all this money, I traded crypto, bro, and now I got 10 mil. I'm living this life. And I look at your life and I'm like, that is not a great life. You eat like a peasant. You live like a peasant.
And you're probably depressed.
And you're probably going to get depressed after you come off all the highs, all this, because all you do is serve self. Your life, because of that, is just one big self-indulgence merry-go-round. That's not balance. That's not happiness. That's not leadership. That's not going to fill the soul. So really hard things and discipline fill the soul no matter what you get in this world. So that's when I started healing my mind. I realized that happiness was calling my mom and realized she was still there and that I had the disease and not her. Happiness was be able to call my best friend and say, how's that girl doing? You think you're going to marry her? What's going on and why? And instead of saying, oh, Dane, how are you? I know you almost died. What's going on? Don't worry about me. This is what's good. Tell me about you. Because you want to get out of depression, be of value to others. Because if you tell me you're depressed right now, I ask you, how valuable do you feel in this world? I feel like I don't feel valuable at all. So you need to start being of value to others. I couldn't walk, but I could still have a great conversation with the grandma that no one pays her any attention to, that I never paid attention to because my life was too quick. So all of a sudden you start realizing what it is to laugh, what it is to smile, what it is to connect, what it is to hug, what it is to be part of a community. And you start becoming thankful because I would take this disease any day of the week than to lose my family. Say yes out loud out there if you hear me right now. What would you trade? See, that's perspective. What I tell you about that earlier, perspective. If you can't gain perspective on your life, you're going to fail because you're always thinking you got to have more and more. It's really a selfish lie. And so that's the foundation of all healing. All healing, all growth, all manifestation. No matter what you want in life, you have to have a foundation of how you get balance without things. And I can give you 100 examples of that. Go ahead.
This this is amazing. And I want to pause us because you've said so many incredible things. I want to focus here on mindset for a few minutes before I nerd out with you and Parker on food, because that's another thing I absolutely love, and we can certainly go down that rabbit hole as well. But in Elevation Nation, Parker and I are obsessed with mindset, right? Forgive me for comparing our very small struggle as a young adult to yours, because they are on different playing fields. The similarity there is Parker and I also realized we needed to change our mindset, right? We were stuck in this funk. Our entire lives, everyone was this little GPS in our ear, our parents, our coaches, our teachers, our professors, telling us what to do to be happy, what to do to get to the next level. In a little bit, I'm going to tie it loosely to your situation of accountability was on other people. My entire life, I love my mom. She's probably listening to this. I knew exactly what I needed to do to make my mom happy, to go to the next stage, right? What was going to progress me forward. And then all of a sudden we graduated. And that GPS got quieter and quieter. I had less coaches in my ear, no professors anymore. My mom was letting me make my own decisions. And I realized I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life and what made me, Sam Panich, happy and healthy. And so at that moment, Parker and I took a step back. We drove and escaped out of the city and went to nature. And we locked ourselves in an Airbnb and said, what are the things we are missing in our lives? Why do we feel depressed and like shit when we did everything right, when we did what everyone else told us to do? And that's where we came up with a concept that I want to hit on, because it's exactly what you're saying. We call it mental fortitude. We feel like that is the missing piece that leaders have that they need to conquer the real world. And we break that down into 3 parts: knowing yourself, who you are at your core, your vision, where you want to go, and what fuels you. And relating that to what you just said, it's understanding, hey, Dane wants to make an impact on other people. He wants to have those interpersonal connections. He doesn't want to feel like a victim. He wants to know about you, right? Your vision of where you want to go. I want to get out of the hospital bed. I want to get my life back. I want to get back to the sunlight and the grounding and the life that I wanted. And what fuels you and what's driving you to get there. And so throughout your story on mindset, I just kept hearing more and more of those pillars of mental fortitude and how you used it for yourself and said, I don't know what's going on with my body. Our bodies are confusing. We're not scientists. You're getting there, but I know I control my mind. Let me at least start there with a small, simple habit. First, maybe shaving, right? Maybe taking a shower, calling the grandma, talking to a stranger in the hallway and making them smile. What are these small little wins that we can elevate and stack on top of each other to start to trick, I'm going to use the word loosely, trick our own minds? You might still be depressed deep down. Take a little bit of time to trick your mind into small, happy habits. Soon you won't feel depressed anymore.
To give you a metaphor I think can help on someone, let's say you're out of shape. Depressed and out of shape are the same thing in this metaphor. If you go to the gym one day, are you back in shape? So you're not tricking. I'm tricking my biceps that they're in shape. No, you're conditioning. You're not tricking anything. Energy is the physical energy required to change your body. We all get it. There's my muscle. There it is. That's how it is. That's how it looks. I get it. We miss that because it's intangible with energy. You got to see energy as a body. What are you feeding it? No one will be healthy and no one will feel great without the conditioning, the daily conditioning and nourishment of love, compassion, connection, purpose. These are the words that the Spirit lives on that thrive 100 years of great life. Period. Let that sink in.
It's values. It's what you value in life.
I love it.
I mean, I can't pick up love. I can't pick up curiosity.
And you can't buy it.
And you can't buy it. But yet people think that they can buy happiness, but you can't touch it. You can't feel it. You can't go to the store and be like, yep, this happiness, I'm going to buy that off the shelf. No, they revert to other things. And Dane, I'm so happy we're having this conversation because first of all, I mean, Sam, you just gave a great point too. It's just on this journey, right, that we've been on the last 5 years. We started the podcast because life was challenging, right? We met some incredible people along the way, similar to yourself, who have unique perspective about how they shape their world, right? And then you go through life, you start to figure out, you start to stack, you start to feel better, you're helping people along the way, and yeah, it's fulfilling. But I'll give you a personal anecdote from my life. 2 years ago, life was freaking great. I had just gotten engaged. Things in Elevation Nation were absolutely rolling. We were doing great at work, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I get a phone call from my mom, hey, you got to get to Florida ASAP. And the next day I was saying goodbye to my stepdad forever. Just like that, with a snap. He was completely healthy. He was a guy who would go to the gym every single day. He had just retired. He was gearing up for the next 25 years of his life to live life miraculously. Yeah. And that you don't plan for, right? Talk about mental fortitude. Sam and I we're preaching on self-awareness and vision and fuel. And man, that put me in a deep place. And I wouldn't call it necessarily depression. But what was crazy is during that time when the rain came, it kept pouring. We had just lost our best friend's sister to cancer. My cousin had struggled with cancer for 8 years. I had a coworker who was hit by a car, 22 years old, all in the matter of 4 months. And so Sam and I, after this moment, we're on a mission to help people when they are at their absolute low or think they are, that they have it in here in the wherewithal to push through, and they can lean on their mental fortitude. But it starts to bring this full circle with those values. It starts with knowing what are those things that you want, the love, the curiosity, the happiness, the intangibles that you can't find in the store. Because ever so more today is people are thinking they can find it and they can buy it or they can get it from the phone or whatever. And so that's a little bit more into who we are and what we're about.
Parker, I just want to hold space for everything you said real quick because that's powerful stuff, man. I felt it on you. And I just want to say a prayer to your stepfather and all those people and hope they blessed. And I hope, obviously good things are coming from that pain right now. And anyone out there who's feeling this conversation, what we're going through, I don't know what's coming to heart for me. That's why I believe in God. It's the only way. Because I'm just
it's brought me closer to God.
Man, dude, I'm just a person. We have this great power to do and manifest, but at the end of the day, I'm just this guy. I'm just a person, and I don't have all the answers, and I can't explain things, and things happen. And I try to put it up to something above me. I have to. I don't know how to deal with, like, even what Parker, how do we deal with that? That's just how I do. I try to. And I try to just talk and come through. I just try to come through. An actionable thing that helped me, Parker, with what you're mentioning right now is I did really well with Tony Robbins books from like the 80s.
Yeah.
Unleash the Giant Within. So when I could start walking again, what I did is I found that I couldn't go for a run. I couldn't hit hard in the gym. I could barely walk. But I could start sitting in a sauna because I was no longer dehydrated and anemic. So as I started to heal, I said, wait a minute, I'm getting dopamine hits. I'm getting sweat out. That skin's looking better. I'm feeling more like myself. I'm going to start hitting the sauna. But then I started stacking my biohacking therapies where I would read. So I started working up to like 30 minutes in the sauna at like 185 degrees. I really could hang in there. I could hang. At first, 5 minutes for the first like 2-3 months. But then I would read for the first 20 minutes. Then I really felt it. I'd go into a meditative. I'd start breathing and meditating. So your heart's going ba ba ba. You're at
and you feel
80%
it,
of
like
max rate.
down.
Like your body's going,
yeah.
get out of the sauna, get out of it. And I'm just because to feel. That's the thing about the gym. To start going through struggle conditions you for spiritual struggle. That's why people are obsessed with the gym. When you get older and you're not trying to look like Mr. Abercrombie, what is your why? What are your values? Because I want to stay conditioned spiritually, so I run, so I lift. Because life's too heavy for me, so I must practice lifting heavy. Right? So I think I just want to hold space for that real quick, but like what helped me when like, why did this happen to me? I still can't eat anything. I still can't do this and that. I would read like a Tony Robbins book on values. You said that key word. And he would teach me about what is a value and how do you get behind what you stand for. And I found when I did that, when I unlocked what you guys are talking about, my confidence went through the roof. Do you know how scared I was to tell a girl that had ulcerative colitis and I went to the bathroom 15 times a day? You know how scared it is to sleep next to someone thinking I got to wake up and have a bowel movement? Do you know how? And I know a lot of women that's even more scary for them. It's scary for guys too. We don't want to be gross. I was so scared of just being connected to others. I was scared to leave the house. Hey, you want to come out to this concert? No freaking way, right?
Wow.
And so it was like the values. Once I got behind what I stood for, I could look someone face to face and say, these terrible things have happened to me. I'm not I'm not perfect. I've said things, I've done things. I'm human, but I now know what I stand for. So, and that changed my life, and it changed with health, because I'm not willing to eat this. I'm not willing to poison myself. I eat like this. I'm gonna give you another one. I'm not willing to date like this. If people can't see me, I'm not willing to date all the way to the left, all the way to the right. I date real narrow. I eat narrow. I date narrow. I make friends narrow. I'm interested in jobs narrowly because of what my values. And all of a sudden, if you do find something, it's special because it has to be within this parameter of options, a small parameter of options. So many of us, especially us men who have something to prove, we want to prove this. We'll date all over the map. We'll have jobs all over the map. We'll have eating all over the map. We just do what other people are doing. Oh, you guys are going out tonight? Yeah, sure. I'll go get drunk and do drugs tonight. Sure. Yeah. So we're reacting to circumstances to gain a feeling of connection, to gain a feeling of socialism or popularity or options. And what happened is, as I started getting values, I stopped saying yes to everything. I stopped doing it because I thought it could give me some kind of benefit. And I started doing things based on what I actually wanted in my life. And I think Sam was talking a bit about that. And it takes courage. We got to start saying no more. Start saying no. Yeah, you're going to be alone a little bit. Yeah, you might not date for a little while. Yeah, you might be in that gym by yourself for a little bit. Yeah, you might be the only one eating that same old food. But is anything worth having without a little bit of discipline and pain behind it? And can you really expect your life to change if the answer is comfortable? Wouldn't you have already done it if it was comfortable? Wouldn't your life change 5 years ago? Sam Parker already said it. They'd made the most uncomfortable decision that now was the best decision. You want to change your life? Seek discomfort.
We have had many an episode on the concept of a comfort zone. And I think to your point, Dane, getting outside that comfort zone is the only place we grow. I want to ask you a question before we move on a little bit more into your new mission in holistic wellness. But something that just came to mind for me, we've had a lot of people, incredible guests on. We call them elevators, people who have a unique mindset like yourself, where they're trying to get to that next level. And so I want to ask you, Dane, you obviously have an elevator mindset. Do you think that mindset is a blessing or a curse? And do you think that it is for all people or only some people? And the reason I ask that is, I'll make it personal. Sometimes I struggle with taking a break, with giving myself a pat on the back, with looking at Parker and saying, man, look how far we come. Because I see where we're going next. And I'm like, bro, we don't have time to waste. Let's go. And sometimes I am a little bit jealous of some of my friends whom I love dearly that are like, I'm chilling. I'm cool with my job. I'm cool with my situation. I'm just going to do this for the rest of my life, and I feel great about it. And sometimes there's a small part of me that goes, damn, that must be nice. Must be nice to feel that, because I've never felt that in my life. So I was curious your thoughts.
I think I heard myself when you were saying that. I just to echo what you were saying, I've always told people that I'm either, if I'm going to live in this Western world, in this capitalistic world and all these different things and help, like I need to feel like I can thrive at it, or you can catch me with no shoes or sandals on a beach somewhere and I'm going to be a bartender for the rest of my life. I'm not doing the middle. And I think that's a little bit of what you're saying because, you know, life is a painting. Paint your canvas and just get behind it. If you want to do big things in life, it is going to require more sacrifice. You're going to have to do more than others and it's going to be more pain. And you're not always going to make sense of how that actually helps your bottom line of happiness and laughter and excitement. And you might look back and say, what did I actually do these last 4 years? So you really need to care about what you're putting all your time into. So I think there's a lot being said. I don't think it's for everybody. And the reason I got behind natural medicine is because it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I feel that I know, because I've worked with thousands of people with inflammatory bowel disease. I've worked 3-year-olds, 7-year-olds, people who've been sick for 40 years. And I've built a team of doctors and practitioners around the world. We see about 180 IBD clients a week. And we're the best in the world at it. And our success rate is stupid high. I don't think there's a clinic, doctor, hospital, coach, or person in the world who can come close to the type of consulting success rate we've had for people with IBD or severe IBS. Here's why. When you want a mission in life, like Sam found a mission, it was rooted out of pain. I do what I do. If you want to know if someone's of integrity, look for a background of real reason to do it. What's their purpose? I nearly died of this. My family spent all their money trying to do this. I went to every major hospital. I tried every major drug. I tried all the restrictive diets. I did carnivore. I did fasting. I did bone broth for days on end. I made my own homemade yogurts. I didn't get any results. When I finally found results, my mission, my value became, I want to create a home for me and others like me so that they're no longer alone with this and they can realize that they can take back their life and you're not meant to be sick. And I want to teach them the core values of getting massive results. And I'm going to do my very best to make it work for everybody. And I'm going to lead with trust, integrity, and authenticity because I will never sell my soul for money. And morals is always bigger than money. And that's the biggest problem with capitalism is we keep selling our morals for money. It should never be that way. It's always money. It's always morals over money. And we need more conscious capitalism, and we need more people who are actually doing something because of what they experienced and felt. And that's leadership, and that's drive. And I believe that greatness is rooted out of pain. So if you tell the universe or you tell God, I want a great life, I think you're going to get some huge roadblocks that are going to make you earn a uniqueness in this world. I don't think you can ask for something big and then without expecting a mountain in front of you with windstorms and pain and scrapes and blood. It's like, be careful what you wish for. I think it really is that. And I think to your point, that's a reason why more of a calmer life. If I don't need the lights and I don't need the commas in my bank account and I don't need this and I don't need that, it can be a very beautiful life. And I think people should be proud to have it.
Dane, I want to talk a little bit about how I was first introduced to holistic wellness. And it's a long story, but I'll keep it short. But Sam mentioned at the beginning of the podcast around my cousin. Mm-hmm. And so my cousin Rachel, an elevator, she was the second person we ever interviewed. And she was a Division I athlete, played college lacrosse at George Washington. And one day she just felt a little sick. And they didn't know what was the problem. Next thing she knows, she's diagnosed with an extremely rare form of cancer. And this was about 7 or 8 years ago. And I remember right from the get-go, our family was like, oh my God, like this is not just like, oh, like a cancer that is curable or a cancer that's going to get better with time or, we have a way to help, right? It was, holy crap, like she doesn't have a lot of time left. And Rachel, for the first couple of years was navigating with traditional doctors and chemotherapy and treatments that, are the norm, I guess, around, I'm not a doctor by any means, but the norm in the procedures. And I believe she came across herself, as well as her mom, some alternative perspective on how to approach healing in general. I know Joe Dispenza was a big influence in her life. I know many others were as well. And she completely shifted her entire life around this idea of what she puts in her body, what touches her skin, what her environment is, can actually have a traumatic impact on her. And she believed that it would help her heal. And years and years and years went on, and Rachel lived so many years longer than the doctors originally diagnosed her. And we lost Rachel this past year. And I'll never forget, we're at her parents' house, and everyone's telling stories after her funeral. And one of the doctors that she worked with was really inspired by what Rachel was doing and how she was approaching her day-to-day, especially with how she approached her holistic wellness and health. And the doctor called in, and there's like 100 people surrounding the phone, and he gets on the phone, and we put him, and Rachel's dad puts him on speakerphone, and he's talking about just how amazing a person Rachel was. And this is a leading doctor in this specific type of cancer. And he says that Rachel, because of the way she approached her life, the way she approached her cancer and her healing and holistic wellness as a whole, has made me as a doctor rethink how we approach treatment. And Rachel will save countless lives because of the way she approached her own sickness and the way she approached her treatment. And we are now committed as a community to figuring out and leaning more into that because of something where Rachel was like, you know what, the worst thing in the entire world happened to me, but I am taking this on and I'm not leaving it to other people to tell me what's the right thing to do.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And a lot of takeaways there. One, I think everyone can, for me, I want to share my big takeaway that I think everyone can also utilize right now is natural medicine is only a win-win for every single person and variable you look at it. Because what we're talking about when she stays away from what hits her skin, what she drinks, what she eats, what kind of air she breathes, is getting away from chemicals and toxins that never existed on the planet in the first place. This is common sense. She gave her body an ability to fight something because she got reduced voluntary organic compounds, PCBs, heavy metals and lead and chlorine in tap water, and she reduced glyphosate, a known cancer causer, an antibiotic, and she reduced levels of microplastics and phthalates, and she reduced all sorts of these man-made chemicals that disrupt our microbiome, that injure our immune system, that clog our drainage pathways like lymphatic system, our liver, our kidneys. This is all not real. We've been bamboozled, like we've been absolutely tricked into believing these things are real. They're not. We are a human earthling living in a chemical soup in our air, food, and water. And that doctor just rethought maybe the way the world was made before man came and screwed it up was actually how humans need to be in the environment to thrive. It's after I've been researching this, lecturing, speaking for years, and working with doctors for years, and I've seen thousands of people reverse symptoms around incurable diseases. Colonoscopies go normal. We had a woman just 2 months ago who was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. She had to get her colon removed. She had 5 failed biologics. People with gut health issues are what I'm talking about. They suppress the immune system, the inflammation. So she got the colon removed from the colorectal cancer. She still had what's called high-grade dysplasia. Dysplasia are these cells that are mutating and have a high chance of turning back into cancer. Okay, so she's still at risk of cancer, high risk of cancer, high-grade dysplasia. After the surgery, she'd already had colorectal cancer. She was diagnosed also ulcerative colitis. And she comes to us and she says, I've already removed all these toxins. I've tried to do all this stuff. I've tried to eat right. I still have high-grade dysplasia. I still have high inflammation in my body. I've failed 5 biologics. At this point, the doctors just want to cut out more of my intestines and attach a bag to my stomach for the rest of my life. And even then, it might kill me. We worked naturally with her, and I actually just used this testimony in front of 2,000 doctors at a speaking engagement 2-3 months ago. We started working on her drainage pathways. We started helping her cells release these toxins. These chemical toxins, the body can't get rid of them. That's what people don't realize. You can eat clean, but they're still inside of you. If you stop the glyphosate or you stop the mercury exposure, it doesn't mean the mercury is no longer in you, still causing damage. It's one thing to stop the exposure, which a lot of people talk about. It's another thing to actually get it out of your body. It's extremely hard to get these mycotoxins, these heavy metals, the environmental toxins out of your body. They're in our tissue, they're in our fat, they're in our ligaments, they're in our nervous system, they're in our cells, okay? Mitochondrial dysfunction is a huge problem from these cellular toxins. We started helping her body release them. We started rebuilding that nervous system. How you feel matters. And we went in, she did another colonoscopy, got off the medication. She failed 5 of them, didn't even work. Then we said, she decided with her doctor, she said, Dane, I've done all this. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of I'm going to stop all the medications. I'm going to do this all solo. She stopped all the medications. We worked on drainage pathway. We rebuilt the microbiome. We worked on the nervous system. We got rid of all sorts of different heavy metals, environmental toxins. She goes back to the doctor, all blood work normal for the first time in her life. calprotectin, first time in her life, normal. I'm saying 800 with everything the doctors could do, surgeries, cutting out her colon, 5 different biologics that can cause cancer themselves, all failed. The best inflammatory marker she got was an 800. Normal is under 50. She gets off all the drugs. She checks again, 78, next check, 52, next check, 40, next check, 23. No medications the whole time. They do another colonoscopy. They find 0 signs of ulcerative colitis, and they find 0 signs of dysplasia or cancer in her colon, and she's on no medications. It was the best she's ever been in her life. She had an endoscopic score of 0. Year 1 and year 2, endoscopic score of 0. I want everyone to realize this, that natural medicine is hard, that healing is a puzzle, but there's always things you can do, and failure is a part of attempting. What do we learn when we elevate our mind? You didn't fail, you just got to keep going. You got to keep trying. There is no fail if you don't quit. And she had the mindset we talked about, the perseverance to keep pushing. And it was because of all of her effort before that we were able to help her in that way. We don't walk on water, but all of that effort, all that discipline, all that foundational stuff she did, we added on that. And it blasted through that glass ceiling. And so you got to see it. You got to enroll the team to help you in your dreams. Don't just try to know. It's not about right now what you're listening to in my mind, guys. It's not about we're giving all these aha moments. It's the conditioning of the spirit. It's the conditioning of my why. Sometimes people ask me, why do you listen to so much stuff on, manifesting or seeing your dreams come true? You've heard that 100 times. Because I'm not here to just learn it. I'm here to condition it. I need to feel better. And that's why sometimes people will watch that same movie over and over again. Right? They'll look at that picture all over and again. Why do we keep telling each other we love each other if we already know? Because it's not about what you know, it's about how you feel. The problem isn't the problem. The problem is how you feel about the problem. Life is so much about what you feel, not you know. Stop trying to know and start trying to shift how you feel. Truth is a perspective. Is it a good day or bad? Am I healthy? Am I sad or good? So that mental fortitude Sam was talking about, that conditioning, the real thing you're after in life is to shift how you feel. If you wake up and you feel like $1 million, that's all that matters, because then you're going to manifest it. You're going to gravitate. You're going to attract that. It doesn't matter what's in the bank. If you feel healthy, the biggest problem when you start changing your diet and you take all these supplements and you do natural medicine, you spend all this money, is that you might get to a year later and you still don't feel safe in your body. You have to do nervous system regulation in natural medicine. I was in Tahiti a few years ago and I was like, why do I still feel scared in my body? Answer this out loud for everyone listening. Do you still feel scared? Do you not feel safe in your body? That's a feeling we just talked about. That's not a supplement. That's not a lab test. I don't feel safe. Now, if the lab test gets better, if the symptom gets better, you might feel better. But you've got to condition how you feel about your life while you're doing the physical,
I think so many points you hit on. I'm curious, I have a family history of, unfortunately, a lot of cancers, a lot of issues in my family.
Both you guys.
And I almost wonder, if I've conditioned my own brain subconsciously to, expect the inevitable.
Expect cancer.
I'm doing my best, right? Yeah, I'm doing my best right now.
That's that's an honest, real, vulnerable. Sam, me and you are like twin spirits, bro. That's exactly how I am. I'll be honest in front of 2,000 people. I don't care. 1 million. You're absolutely right. And you're right that we are kind of, I was saying the same thing. I'm at higher risk of colorectal cancer because I had one of the worst cases of Crohn's colitis you could have as a human. And it's just even any feeling in your body, you might be, subconsciously you're thinking, is that cancer? Is that a tumor? You just get a little pain. And you're like, oh man, what if that's a tumor growing? It's just weird stuff we do in our head. For me, this is where I want to give people a few things they can do with that. EMDR. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Okay. Now that, or I'm going to give you a few more, clinical hypnosis or emotional freedom technique, which is my favorite, most cost-effective, easiest to do. And then another one that's kind of made some waves is called German New Medicine. All of these is what I think is really interesting beyond therapy. Have you guys ever noticed that if you talk about your problems and sometimes the problem actually just gets worse. You actually feel worse or lower energy after the conversation. You're like, I don't even want to get into it because I don't want to bring myself down. It's Friday night. You're out with your friends. You're going, hey, are you thinking about cancer? And you're like, dude, not now. Right?
Not now.
I don't want to talk about it. So talking about it can slowly. So what these do is when you talk about it, you actually purge the subconscious energy connected to it at a cellular level. So you're getting into more energy healing. It's a little bit more Eastern philosophy, but you're recalibrating your cells and also releasing it from what we call like your meridians. So when you do tapping, you're tapping on your meridians as you talk about your problems to help release it. Or if you do eye movement, so some emotions and traumas can be stored in different parts of your brain. So they have you either have a buzzer in each hand, so it triggers your left brain, left brain, right brain. So when they have trauma and you're experiencing the trauma, they work on resetting your mindset around that trauma. So I'm a huge fan of actually actively working on moving energy and not just talking. I almost never do therapy. To me, just my humble opinion right now is I haven't seen as much value in just talking about my problems or my fears or my traumas, but tapping on them while I'm talking about them, or doing eye movement, or doing cranial sacral therapy. So it's active conditioning. And this is starting to come out. More people are talking about this, like working on the trauma. Trauma is not something you talk yourself out of. To further my point about therapy, you can't. So, and we have trauma. Like when I did muscle testing, if you guys know what muscle testing is, sorry to keep jumping around. No. Muscle testing is your body's signal will change based on limiting beliefs or poisons. So if you hold a sugar up to my heart, you'll be able to take my arm and push it down. Visually, I know people can't see this. When you hold things that are inflammatory to your body, I can manipulate your nervous system more. It stops working. It's like you lost power in your body electrically. And so now your body can't heal. It's not as strong. And so you can do muscle testing around supplements. You can do it around foods. And you can also do it around thought. And I was sitting in an Equinox in New York City one time, and this guy, he was coming up to me. And I said, I want to go on, I was like, can you do this? And he was teaching me about these limiting thoughts. And we started working on limiting beliefs. So I would tap on limiting beliefs, like, are you still sick? And he could push my arm down. So I still felt sick. So, you can check this out, look into muscle testing. But then he asked me, he was like, I'll take an example number here. He said, are you worth making $100,000 a year? I said, yes. Arm didn't move. Then he goes, are you worth $300,000 a year? I said, yes. Arm went right down. And it was just interesting. It was like, wow, but I wasn't letting him move my arm. Check this out, guys. Yeah. Everyone look, muscle testing online, how it works. Your nervous system will stop regulating properly around limiting beliefs, supplements your body doesn't like or not ready for, or around foods. So you could literally hold a packet of sugar in your hand and someone will be able to manipulate your arm and it'll be much easier. So it's like the body's electrical. So that also goes into therapy. When we have these traumas, like Sam and Parker, if you guys have trauma around the risk of cancer in your life, and because you've seen so many bad experiences, if it happens to you, you almost feel like you're being flushed down the toilet over 4 years. And that's how I feel about colorectal cancer or ulcerative colitis, and that's why I felt for years like my life is kind of over. It's a trauma. So I actively see an EFT coach who all I do is go over traumas. Even if I think I'm over it mentally, I'll just sit there and deep on all my fears and tap on it. The first time I did this, I started crying. I'm not a crier. I started crying, and I couldn't, I fell asleep at like 6:30. I was so exhausted after an hour of, what would happen if you get cancer? Why do you think the cancer still could be in your body? I've never been diagnosed, never been worried about cancer. But because of my experience, the trauma of being nearly dying of IBD is now my body is waiting for the next thing to get me. Do you guys have that? Like there's some subconscious anxiety. Why you wake up, why you work hard, why you have to go to the gym, why you got to eat perfect. There's this constant anxiety. There's a ghost that's on your shoulder, like, some voodoo sitting on your shoulder. You got to try to get that thing off. And that's what it is when you start working on the nervous system. No one can actually heal until they feel healed.
That's powerful. Wow.
And that's up there.
Dane, I'm like loving this perspective because you know what? People, obviously you can find your lanes in the world of social media or the internet, or you pick up some books, right? And you learn about it. But still, it's not common. Still, not many people know that there's still alternative ways to approach your emotional health, your physical health, the way, there's alternatives to what you sleep on every night that could be, beneficial to you in different ways. Like, there's so many alternatives out there. And I just appreciate you shedding light, in our 56-minute conversation for Elevation Nation, because I know everyone listening is like, wait, I'm really intrigued by this, especially if you're still listening at this point, right?
Yeah, I know. And, it's hard to, long form content nowadays, right? We're all busy. And yeah, I hope it's been valuable today, and we've helped unlock some things. And I know we didn't get into a lot of the physical of diet and supplements and all of that type of stuff. And maybe if that serves people and it's asked about, I'm more available to talk about the idea of diets, meat, plants, supplements, how to get a healing response, what type of parts of the body do you want to heal, what are the root issues that I found and treated. But I think what we did is so important, because you have to have the foundation first. And, you just have to seek. If you're out there and you're just overwhelmed, like I was overwhelmed, like Sam and Parker were overwhelmed, just be willing to put one foot in front of the other and be willing to fail. You don't get great surprises and ahas and win in life if you're not walking in a road saying, I'm willing to fail. When I was stuck in that house and I was eating things that my doctor said did not matter, and I was spending money and taking supplements and making yogurts and doing prayer and purpose and all these things and journaling, when all the doctor said it does not matter, that is just pure faith that I refuse this reality. So I want everyone, just the last thought for me is, what reality are you convicted to create? What are you going to refuse? And how are you going to stay on that line? What do you need to condition? Now, the knowing of what do I take and what do I eat and how do I get there is important. But if you don't have the balance to stay in the pocket, to stay conditioned to seek, it doesn't matter what jewel you think you'll find along the way. You have to stay, and that's what a value is. Your values. So can you find happiness and balance in this conviction? And that's the first thing I did, is I decided, how can I get happy and healthy at the same time? How can I eat restrictive and still feel free? How can I know that I'm more sick than everyone else, but I'm on a road to be healthier than the health? And that's just
mindset.
That's faith, man. Faith and hard work. And when you'll feel it, because you'll read that book, you'll listen to this podcast, you'll come to another Elevation Nation podcast, and you will realize that by the end of that call, there'll be this deep intuition or hope in you that you just got to nurture. You're going to say, I feel it, I know, I believe, I choose. And then you just got to nurture that like a newborn baby. And just hold on to it and love on it, and then surround yourself with people who nurture that, because that's all a best friend is. Sam and Parker are best friends because they've always lifted each other up most consistently at the best times. That's all a best friend is. So surround yourself with people who lift you up and help your dreams come true, and you do the same for them. And if you live in integrity and in value with those principles, you will serve them and they will serve you, and everyone will be served and everyone will win with this holistic lifestyle. Thanks for having me, guys.
What a beautiful, beautiful message, Dane. I mean, the fact we only have an hour, I could talk to you for multiple, so we might have to figure that out. But I just want to thank you for bringing some energy, perspective, and mindset to Elevation Nation that Parker and I love discussing, because we now are believers. We believe it in our core. We believe it in our heart and our soul. And we are continuing to try to elevate how we think about holistic wellness, energy, and how we can be the best versions of ourselves. So I want to end with our final question, Dane. It's what unites every single elevator in the nation. Parker and I are all about mindset. You learned a little bit about mental fortitude and what that means to us. Every single elevator has something we call a mental motto, a phrase that embodies who they are and how they live their life. And I know you've dropped a ton of knowledge bombs on us so far, but Dane Johnson, do you have one mental motto that really encompasses who you are?
That's a tough one. A mental motto that encompasses who I am. I would say positive energy creates more positive energy. Seek positive things to create the life you want, and let go of negativity, because it only drags down positivity and amplifies other people's negativity. And the last thing I'll say, just to be a little schmirk about it, as I said, even an asshole doesn't want to be around another asshole.
Dane, love the mental motto, love the ending, and I just want to thank you on behalf of Sam, myself, Elevation Nation. We're pumped to welcome you officially, and I just am so grateful for the time, and this is a conversation I will always cherish and look back upon. So appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Park. God bless. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Truly honored.